1940. Europe is engulfed in the flames of war as Hitler's Germany seeks European domination over land, air, and sea. Hitler's newfound obsession with naval domination saw the birth of the battleship Tirpitz, sister ship of the mighty Bismarck, and the new pride of Hitler's navy, the Kriegsmarine. This floating fortress is no ordinary ship. Over 820 feet long and displacing 52,000 tons fully loaded, Tirpitz is the largest battleship ever built by a European navy. Armed with 8 massive 15-inch guns, she's a seagoing castle of steel, a symbol of Nazi Germany's power and military might. But to Britain's wartime leader Winston Churchill, the Beast, as he calls it, represents an intolerable threat that must be sunk at all costs. Churchill growls nervously to his naval commanders, "Where is Tirpitz?" If Tirpitz breaks out into the North Atlantic, she could wreak havoc on the Allied convoys bringing vital supplies from America to Britain and the Soviet Union. Cut these supply lines, and the entire Allied war effort could be strangled. Thus begins a tiresome 4-year battle as the British hurl everything they have at Tirpitz in a relentless campaign to send Hitler's most powerful ship to the bottom of the ocean. From midget submarines to aerial bombing raids, no effort is spared to eliminate this potent symbol of German naval might. But sinking Tirpitz will prove to be one of the most difficult challenges of the war. Virtually unsinkable, she absorbs attack after attack, protected by thick armor, defensive firepower, and the rugged Norwegian fjords where she lurks far from the reach of British ships. This is the story of the life and violent death of the German battleship Tirpitz and the relentless Allied efforts over years of war to destroy her, and how eventually devastating earthquake bombs toppled the unsinkable German battleship in one of the most incredible sagas of World War II, the heroic hunt for the spearhead of Hitler's fleet. The year is 1936. Adolf Hitler's Third Reich is on the march, casting an ominous shadow over Europe. The Führer dreams of world domination, and he knows that to achieve it, Germany must become a naval superpower capable of challenging Britain's centuries-old mastery of the seas. Hitler turns to his most trusted naval commander, Grand Admiral Erich Raeder, with an audacious plan. Construct the mightiest battleships the world has ever seen, vessels so formidable they can sweep the oceans clean of all opposition. Raeder eagerly embraces the challenge, knowing that these new superships will be the key to Germany's ascendancy. Thus is born the Bismarck class. 2 mammoth battleships designed to outgun and outfight anything the British can throw at them. The first, christened Bismarck herself, is launched in 1939 to great fanfare. But it's her sister ship, Tirpitz, named after Germany's legendary World War I naval commander, Grand Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, that captures Hitler's imagination. Tirpitz, the Führer decrees, will be the mightiest of all, a floating fortress unsurpassed in armor, speed, and firepower. As Tirpitz takes shape in the shipyards of Wilhelmshaven, the British watch with growing alarm. Naval intelligence soon confirms their worst fears. This new German behemoth is larger, faster, and more heavily armed than any battleship in the Royal Navy. If Tirpitz is let loose upon the Atlantic, Britain's vital lifelines could be cut in a matter of weeks. Winston Churchill, now serving as Britain's First Lord of the Admiralty, becomes obsessed with the German supership. He peppers his subordinates with incessant questions. Where is Tirpitz? Churchill knows that once this juggernaut puts to sea, it will deal a hammer blow to Britain's war effort. He vows to move heaven and earth to destroy her. But the British are given a chilling reminder of the potency of Germany's new battleships when in May 1941, Tirpitz's sister ship Bismarck breaks out into the Atlantic. In a devastating display of naval power, Bismarck quickly sinks the pride of the Royal Navy the battlecruiser HMS Hood. Only a desperate pursuit by the British Home Fleet manages to hunt down and sink Bismarck after a raging battle. The shock of the Hood's loss electrifies the British High Command. Tirpitz must be eliminated before she can repeat her sister's bloody rampage. Now, as the epic saga of the Tirpitz begins in the war-torn year of 1942, a contest of wills is underway. Between Hitler's fanatical desire to unleash his mightiest battleship and Churchill's grim determination to send her to the bottom, the stage is set for one of the greatest naval dramas of all time. Though Tirpitz will not be drawn into a fight, not yet. In a decision that will have fateful consequences, Hitler orders his new supership to Norway, where she can tie down Allied naval forces and threaten the convoys to Russia. Tirpitz soon takes up residence in the Norwegian fjords, where her guns can dominate the North Atlantic, and where her presence alone will force the British to maintain a vast fleet to counter her. The Tirpitz, Churchill realizes, may never even have to fire a shot to throw the Allied war effort into chaos, and so begins the unrelenting 4-year struggle to destroy Tirpitz, one that will push both the British attackers and the German defenders to the very limits of ingenuity, daring, and endurance. The most dangerous weapon within Hitler's fleet, sheltered but not entirely protected in her Norwegian lair, has now become the most pursued ship in the world. As British forces on land, air, and sea prepare to launch one of the greatest campaigns in naval history, one man stands ready to meet them: Captain Carl Topp, the brilliant, stalwart commander of Tirpitz, knows his ship is now in the crosshairs. He vows to do everything in his power to keep her safe and make the British pay in blood for every attempt to harm her. The stage is now set for a titanic duel between these two implacable foes. The year is 1942. Tirpitz, the leader of Hitler's Kriegsmarine, is now ensconced in the Norwegian fjords, a brooding presence that threatens the Allies' vital lifelines in the Atlantic. Winston Churchill, Britain's indomitable Prime Minister, is determined to sink this menacing danger at any cost. He summons his naval commanders and issues a blunt directive. Tirpitz must be destroyed, and soon. The entire war effort depends on it. But the British quickly realize that destroying Tirpitz will be no easy feat. Nestled deep in the sheltered fjords, the German supership is virtually immune to attack by surface vessels, and the Luftwaffe maintains a constant aerial umbrella over Tirpitz, ready to pounce on any Allied bombers that dare to approach. Faced with this seemingly indestructible target, the British hatch a daring plan. If they can't destroy Tirpitz from above, they'll do it from below. The weapon of choice? Midget submarines, small enough to penetrate the Norwegian fjords undetected and attack the colossal German vessel where she lies at anchor. Thus is born Operation Source, a covert mission designed to send a flotilla of midget subs deep into enemy waters, past German defenses, to deliver a knockout blow to Tirpitz. No mission could be more daring or more dangerous. The crews of these tiny subs will be pitting themselves against the mightiest battleship ever built. Leading this audacious attack is Lieutenant Godfrey Place, a cool and fearless submariner who has already earned a reputation for skill and daring. As he and his hand-picked crews ready their diminutive craft, they know the odds are stacked heavily against them. They will have to thread a deadly gauntlet of mines, nets, and German patrols before they can even approach their target. Then they must face the truly daunting task of planting their explosives on the hull of a behemoth bristling with guns and surrounded by escort ships. As the midget submarines set out on their perilous voyage, tensions run high. The crews know that their flimsy craft could be blasted out of the water at any moment, but they also know that if they succeed, they could turn the tide of the war. After days of nerve-wracking travel, the subs finally penetrate the inner reaches of the fjord where Tirpitz lies at anchor, but disaster strikes almost immediately. One sub becomes entangled in the anti-submarine nets and has to be destroyed by its crew to avoid capture. Another runs aground and is forced to withdraw. Now, only Lieutenant Place's sub, designated X7, remains to press the attack. In a heart-stopping final approach, Place manages to maneuver his sub under the massive hull of Tirpitz. Working feverishly and knowing they only have moments before they're discovered, the crew manages to release their explosive charges, but as they attempt to withdraw, they find themselves trapped under the German vessel. Place has no choice but to surface and order his crew to abandon ship. As they emerge onto the deck of the Tirpitz, they're immediately captured by the astonished Germans. But even as Place and his men are led away to captivity, their charges suddenly detonate with a thunderous roar. Tirpitz shudders from stem to stern as the explosions rip huge gashes in her hull. Water pours into her engine rooms, and for a moment, it appears the German battleship might actually sink. But Tirpitz is not finished yet. Though grievously wounded, the German Leviathan stubbornly remains afloat. Her damage control teams leap into action, fighting the flooding and jury-rigging repairs. After several fraught hours, it becomes clear that Tirpitz will survive, this time. As word of the attack reaches Britain, Churchill and his naval chiefs are disappointed, but not discouraged. They've seen that Tirpitz can be hurt, badly. The midget sub-attack has proven that no matter how formidable the German battleship may be, she's not invulnerable. But the Germans too have learned a harsh lesson. They now know that the Allies will stop at nothing to destroy their prized battleship. In the coming months, they will redouble their efforts to protect Tirpitz, moving her to ever more secure anchorages and intensifying their defensive measures. The stage is now set for a full-scale battle of wits and weapons as the Allies unleash a relentless series of attacks to destroy Tirpitz, while the Germans employ every measure to keep her afloat. The Norwegian fjords will soon bear witness to one of the most intense and dramatic naval campaigns of World War II. In the wake of the daring but only partially successful midget submarine attack on Tirpitz, the British are more determined than ever to destroy the mammoth German ship. They know that as long as Tirpitz remains afloat, she poses a deadly threat to Allied shipping in the Atlantic. But with the battleship now hidden deep in the Norwegian fjords and heavily defended, the options for attack are limited. Undeterred, the British conceive of an even more audacious plan. A commando raid using human torpedoes, miniature submersibles that can be piloted right up to the hull of the Tirpitz and attach explosive charges. It's a high-risk, high-reward mission. If successful, it could cripple or even sink Tirpitz in a single stroke. Leading this daring raid is Lieutenant Noel Cashford, a veteran commando with nerves of steel. He and his hand-picked team will have to approach Tirpitz at night, navigating through icy, treacherous waters and evading German patrols. If they're discovered, they face certain death. As Cashford and his men set out on their perilous mission codenamed Operation Title, tension is at a fever pitch. The human torpedoes are notoriously difficult to control, and the commandos know they will only have one chance to attach their charges to Tirpitz's hull. Disaster strikes almost immediately. The choppy seas and strong currents make it nearly impossible to control the human torpedoes. One by one, they're swept off course, the commandos powerless to regain control. Cashford can only watch helplessly as his men are carried away into the darkness, never to be seen again. With a heavy heart, Cashford is forced to abort the mission. Operation Title has failed, and the brave commandos who risked everything now lie at the bottom of the fjord. Tirpitz, now seemingly indestructible, has once again emerged unscathed. Though devastated by the failure of Operation Title, the British refuse to give up. They immediately begin planning for another attack using midget submarines, building on the lessons learned from the previous attempt. The new mission, codenamed Operation Source, will be larger in scale and even more daring. 6 midget subs, each packed with a massive 2-ton explosive charge, will penetrate the fjord and attach their deadly cargo to Tirpitz' hull. Leading the attack this time is Lieutenant Donald Cameron, a skilled submariner determined to succeed where the others have failed. He knows the odds are stacked against him. The Germans have significantly tightened their defenses since the last attack. But Cameron is convinced that with careful planning and a bit of luck, he can deliver a decisive blow to Hitler's prized battleship. As the midget subs set out, the tension is palpable. The crews know they're embarking on a virtual suicide mission. They must navigate through minefields, nets, and German patrols, all the while knowing that even if they succeed in reaching Tirpitz, they may not make it back. In a heart-stopping display of underwater daring, Cameron and his fellow commanders managed to guide their tiny subs through the gauntlet of German defenses. 2 of the subs, X6 and X7, successfully attached their charges to Tirpitz' hull. But as they attempt to flee, they're spotted by German sentries. In the ensuing firefight, the subs are badly damaged and the crews are forced to abandon ship. As Cameron and his men are captured by the Germans, the charges suddenly detonate with a thunderous roar. Tirpitz shudders violently as the explosions rip through her hull. She takes on water rapidly, her crew scrambling to contain the damage. But once again, Tirpitz stubbornly refuses to sink. Though badly damaged, with gaping holes in her hull and flooded compartments, the German vessel remains afloat. Her damage control teams work frantically to patch the holes and pump out the water. For the British, it's a bittersweet victory. They've proven once again that Tirpitz can be hurt. But the tireless German battleship lives on, battered but unbroken, and the cost has been high. Most of the brave submariners who attacked her now languish in German prisoner-of-war camps. With Tirpitz still afloat, despite the best efforts of Britain's naval commandos, Churchill and his military chiefs decide on a radical change in strategy. If they can't destroy the German battleship from below, they'll do it from above. Thus is born Operation Tungsten, a massive aerial assault on Tirpitz using the most powerful weapon in the Allied arsenal, the fleet carrier. The plan is audacious, a full-scale attack by scores of dive bombers and torpedo planes launched from carriers in the icy waters of the Arctic Ocean. Leading the attack is the legendary Royal Navy Admiral Sir Bruce Fraser, a veteran of the seas. He knows the risks are high. The German defences around Tirpitz are formidable, with dozens of anti-aircraft guns and fighter planes on constant alert. But Fraser is confident that with surprise on his side, he can deal a crippling blow to the pride of the Kriegsmarine. As the carriers steam towards their launch point, the tension among the pilots and crew is electric. They know they're about to embark on the most important mission of their lives. The fate of the war may well hinge on their success or failure. On the morning of April 3rd, 1944, the attack begins. In the pre-dawn darkness, scores of bombers and torpedo planes roar off the carrier decks, winging their way towards Tirpitz anchorage. The Germans, caught by surprise, scramble to man their defences. In a spectacular aerial assault, the Allied planes brave a maelstrom of anti-aircraft fire and swarms of German fighters. Bombs and torpedoes rain down on Tirpitz, the battleship vanishing in a series of shattering explosions. But when the smoke clears, Tirpitz is still buoyant. The German giant has taken over a dozen direct hits and is badly damaged, but her heavy armour and resilient crew have enabled her to weather the storm. The British pilots, their ammunition spent, have no choice but to turn for home. Undeterred by the failure of Operation Tungsten to sink Tirpitz, the Allies press on with a relentless series of aerial attacks. In the following months, Operations Mascot, Goodwood, and others see hundreds of bombers and torpedo planes hurled against the German battleship. Each attack follows a similar pattern: a daring assault by Allied planes, a ferocious defense by German fighters and anti-aircraft guns, and a battered but still floating Tirpitz at the end of the day. The German monster, it seems, is truly unsinkable. But the Allies have one more card to play. In September 1944, they unveiled a terrifying new weapon, designed specifically to destroy heavily armored targets like Tirpitz, the Tall Boy bomb. Weighing in at a staggering 12,000 pounds, the Tall Boy is a brute of a bomb, capable of punching through the thickest armor and causing catastrophic earthquake-like damage. Armed with this new weapon, the Allies launch Operation Paravane, a massive aerial assault aimed at finally sinking Tirpitz. On September 15, 1944, a force of 27 Lancaster bombers, each armed with a single Tall Boy, sets out for Tirpitz anchorage. The Germans, by now well aware of the Tall Boy's fearsome reputation, throw everything they have at the approaching bombers. In a thunderous assault, the Tall Boys rain down on Tirpitz, the massive explosions shaking the field like an earthquake. The battleship vanishes in a series of titanic blasts, the shock waves felt for miles around. When the smoke finally clears, Tirpitz is a shattered wreck. Huge holes gape in her hull, her decks are twisted metal, and fires rage out of control. But, incredibly, the German Leviathan is still afloat. Damaged beyond repair, she is, nonetheless, a testament to German engineering and resilience. But for the Allies, it's a hollow victory. Tirpitz, though crippled, still lives. The German warship has absorbed the worst the Allies can throw at her and stubbornly refused to die. The stage is now set for the final ambush in the deadly pursuit of Tirpitz. The Allies, their patience at an end, will unleash the mightiest aerial armada yet assembled. And this time, there will surely be no escape for her. November 12, 1944. The day of reckoning has come for Tirpitz. The seemingly most dogged battleship ever built lies at anchor in Tromsø Fjord, licking her wounds after the battering she received in Operation Paravane. But for the Allies, the job is not yet finished. As long as Tirpitz remains afloat, she poses a deadly threat to Allied convoys in the North Atlantic. The British, determined to end the Tirpitz threat once and for all, have conceived of a daring plan. A massive force of 32 Lancaster bombers, each armed with the devastating Tall Boy bomb, will attack the German behemoth in her lair. If successful, it will rid the world of Tirpitz forever. As the Lancasters take off from their base in Scotland, the suspense is overwhelming, and the crew know it. The pilots know they're about to embark on the most important mission of their lives. They also know the dangers that await them. Tirpitz defenses are formidable, with scores of anti-aircraft guns and fighter planes on constant alert. But as the bombers approach Tromsø, they receive an unexpected boon. The Luftwaffe, usually so quick to defend Tirpitz, is nowhere to be seen. A communication breakdown has left the German fighter planes grounded, leaving Tirpitz exposed. Seizing their chance, the Lancasters press the attack. In a thunderous assault, the Tall Boys rain down on Tirpitz, the massive explosions shaking the fjord like the hammer of Thor. The German battleship vanishes in a series of destructive blasts. Again, like the last time, the smoke finally clears, and Tirpitz is a shattered wreck. Huge holes gape in her hull, her decks are twisted metal, and fires rage out of control. But this time, in a final, catastrophic explosion, Tirpitz magazine detonates. The mighty ship, the pride of Hitler's navy, is torn apart from within. In a matter of moments, Tirpitz capsizes and sinks, taking over 1,000 of her crew with her to the bottom of the fjord. It's a devastating blow to German morale and a triumph for the Allies. The unsinkable ship has finally been sunk. For the British pilots, they have rid the world of a deadly threat. But the cost has been high. Many of their comrades did not return from this mission, sacrificing their lives to bring down Tirpitz. But the significance of their achievement cannot be overstated. With Tirpitz gone, the Allied convoys can now sail the North Atlantic without fear of the German battleship. It's a turning point in the war, one that will hasten the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. The sinking of Tirpitz becomes too much for the German High Command. Hitler, enraged at the loss of his prized battleship, demands answers. The Luftwaffe, already stretched thin and struggling to defend Germany itself, becomes a convenient scapegoat. In a bitter irony, the commander of the Luftwaffe fighter squadron tasked with defending Tirpitz, Major Heinrich Erler, is court-martialed for dereliction of duty. Despite his protests that he never received the order to scramble his fighters, Erler is made the fall guy for the Tirpitz disaster. But the recriminations within the German command cannot disguise the magnitude of the defeat. The sinking of Tirpitz is a crushing blow to German morale, a stark demonstration of Allied air superiority and a decisive shift in the balance of power at sea. For the Allies, it's a triumphant vindication of their strategy and a testament to their technological and operational superiority. The tall boy bomb, the Lancaster bombers, and the skilled pilot have proven more than a match for the best Nazi Germany can muster. In the end, the story of Tirpitz is the story of the rise and fall of Nazi Germany itself. The mighty battleship, once the symbol of Hitler's ambitions to dominate the seas, lies shattered at the bottom of a Norwegian fjord, a rusting hulk that will forever symbolize the folly and the failure of the Third Reich. The sinking of Tirpitz also marks the end of an era in naval warfare. Never again will the mighty battleship reign supreme on the high seas. But for those who fought and died in the painstaking battle against Tirpitz, the memory of their struggle will never fade. Theirs was a victory won at a terrible cost, but one that helped to turn the tide of the war and hasten the downfall of Nazi tyranny. The story of Tirpitz and of the brave men who finally sent her to the bottom will echo through the ages as a testament to the courage, determination, and sacrifices of a generation that faced down evil and prevailed.